There's a strange truth hiding in plain sight. Some of the most powerful, sustainable, and surprisingly productive gardening methods come not from modern science, but from monks who farmed in silence 1,000 years ago. These quiet agricultural masterminds produced abundant harvests on tiny plots without chemicals, tractors, or expensive inputs. Yet, their techniques still outperform some modern practices. Today, we're reviving their forgotten wisdom and placing it side by side with modern agriculture so you can use these methods in your own garden with incredible results. Let's dive straight into the 10 most valuable medieval monastery farming methods and how they stack up against today's systems, plus how you can apply them right now. Monastic soil layering versus modern shallow tillage. Monastery gardens were built on the belief that soil is sacred. Monks protected it with layered organic matter, straw, leaves, manure, ash, compost, applied in thick annual blankets. These layers fed microbes, prevented erosion, and created soil so rich it could grow food on nearly barren land. Modern shallow tillage, on the other hand, breaks structure, speeds up nutrient loss, exposes microbes to UV light, and increases water needs. To recreate monastic soil layering today, you want to apply a stack of organic matter in this exact order. First, lay down a 2-inch layer of dry carbon material, like straw or shredded leaves. Next, add a 1-inch layer of well-rotted compost. Then, water deeply using 4 liters of water per square meter to help the layers settle. This method, really mimics the slow humus-building conditions that monks depended on. Cloistered crop rotations versus modern monoculture. Well, instead of planting just one crop across a field, monasteries use strict rotation sequences to keep their soil fertile. Legumes always followed heavy feeders, and medicinal herbs came after grains to sanitize the soil naturally. Modern monoculture, unfortunately, exhausts the land and increases pest pressure, which ends up forcing farmers to rely on chemicals. In contrast, monastic rotation rebuilt nutrients before they were depleted. For home gardeners, the formula is actually pretty simple. Heavy feeders in year 1, legumes in year 2, herbs and light feeders in year 3, then compost-heavy beds in year 4. This rotation, it mirrors monastic patterns that created fertility with no synthetic fertilizer. Walled microclimates versus modern open field exposure. Now that's an interesting comparison. Monasteries were famous for their walled gardens. Those stone walls weren't just for privacy. They created warmer pockets, gave wind protection, and helped keep temperatures stable. This allowed monks to grow crops that, honestly, weren't supposed to survive in their climate. Modern agriculture's open field approach, on the other hand, exposes crops to windburn, heat spikes, and moisture loss. You can recreate monastery microclimates by planting heat-loving crops near the south-facing side of a wall or fence. If your climate is harsh, use the medieval trick of sun-warmed stone lay rocks around heat-loving plants to radiate warmth through the night. Fermented plant extracts versus modern synthetic fertilizers. Monks created nutrient-rich plant tonics by fermenting herbs, weeds, and manure in water for many days. What we now call botanical teas. These extracts fed both plants and soil biology in a slow, steady, natural way. Modern agriculture often relies on fast-acting synthetic fertilizers that provide short bursts of nutrients but weaken soil life over time. So, to recreate monastic plant extracts at home, you'll want to use this old traditional ratio. Mix 1 kilogram of chopped nettle or comfrey with 10 liters of water. Let it ferment for 14 days, and remember to give it a good stir every 2 days. After that, dilute it at 1 cup of extract per 1 liter of water before applying. This method, honestly, produces an extraordinarily balanced liquid feed. Quiet observation-based farming, it's quite different from modern data-heavy agronomy. Medieval monks, well, they farmed in silence, and that silence, it wasn't just spiritual. It really sharpened their observation skills. They studied plant color changes, subtle leaf angles, soil smell, moisture shifts, and even insect behavior with a level of precision that, honestly, modern farmers sometimes overlook. Modern agriculture uses sensors, satellites, and analytics, yet it still misses those low-tech insights that are visible to a truly trained eye. Gardeners who adopt the monastic pause spend a few minutes each morning simply observing. Over time, problems are caught before they escalate. This method reduces pests, prevents disease, and boosts yield with no inputs whatsoever. Monastery compost sanctuaries, compared to modern industrial compost, were managed with a remarkable level of care. Composting in monasteries followed strict cycles. There were separate bays for new materials, half-aged piles, and fully mature compost. Monks added ashes, manure, kitchen scraps, and garden waste in exact layers and turned only at key fermentation stages. Modern composting often rushes the process or, mixes materials too inconsistently. So, to recreate the monastic method, you're going to want to follow this layering sequence. Start with about 3 inches of dried leaves, then add 2 inches of green waste, followed by just a thin dusting of wood ash, and then 1 inch of manure. You'll want to repeat these layers, and make sure to moisten each one with roughly 2 liters of water. Only turn the pile when the center feels hot to the touch, never on a fixed schedule. Herb borders for pest control are, a really interesting alternative to modern pesticides. In monastic gardens, herb borders actually surrounded the crops. Plants like rosemary, sage, lavender, and mint formed a protective barrier that confused pests and attracted beneficial insects. This kind of living fence naturally reduced infestations. These days, modern agriculture relies pretty heavily on chemical pesticides, but unfortunately, they end up harming soil life and beneficial insects along the way. Reconstructing an herb border today doesn't require acreage. You can simply plant a 1-foot wide ring of herbs around your vegetable beds. The diversity of scent and structure, actually replicates the medieval biological shield that minimized pest pressure. High-density kitchen plots versus modern wide-spaced rows. Monks in the past planted their vegetables in tight, carefully measured formations. These dense plantings kept weeds out, shaded the soil, and really maximized yields in limited space. Modern agriculture, on the other hand, prefers wide equipment-friendly rows that unfortunately waste water and allow weeds to thrive. So try monastic spacing by grouping crops based on their canopy structure. For example, you can plant lettuces beneath taller beans or trellised cucumbers to mimic the layered productivity that monks really perfected. This method honestly boosts yield per square foot dramatically. Water harvesting channels, compared to modern over-irrigation, work quite differently. Monasteries used these narrow trenches and stone-lined channels to direct rainwater exactly where it was needed. They slowed runoff, prevented erosion, and watered crops efficiently, long before modern drip systems even existed. Modern agriculture often over-irrigates, which ends up wasting water and leaching nutrients. So, to apply the monastic method at home, you'll want to carve shallow channels around your beds, sloping very gently toward your thirstiest plants. After a rain, you'll witness how these ancient systems guide water precisely, instead of just letting it wash away. Perennial food forest edges versus modern annual-only production. Here's what makes the difference. Many monasteries planted fruit trees, berry shrubs, vines, herbs, and perennial vegetables right along the edges of their gardens. This created a self-feeding system where falling leaves became mulch, deep-rooted plants pulled nutrients upward, and perennial structure stabilized the microclimate. These days, modern farms often ignore perennials in favor of annual crops that require constant replanting. A simple home version is planting a row of fruit trees with berry bushes at their base and herbs beneath them. This actually replicates the medieval three-tier edge system that fed entire communities year after year. These monastery farming methods weren't just clever, they were extremely efficient, sustainable, and biologically intelligent. And honestly, the best part is that every one of them still works today, sometimes even outperforming modern techniques that rely heavily on chemicals and machinery. If you found this guide helpful, make sure to subscribe to Master Gardener and share this with a fellow gardener. Let's bring these forgotten techniques back to life and grow smarter, richer soil together.